Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by DraftKings, America's #1 sportsbook app. Now, my favorite color commentator in the entire world, Mr. Lamont Lovett. Hello, Lamont. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
All right. First, I had a bunch of people ask, because I know you're a sneakerhead, and what did you think about the dropping of the new U of A basketball jerseys? I got to get that out of the way first.
I thought they were cool. I thought they were clean. I'm always for a clean, look. I don't like stuff to be too busy, so I got no problem with them. I thought they looked clean. They were sharp.
Okay, cool. All right. Now, let's talk, and you and I text pretty much all week let's talk about Cal, and then we'll go forward with Colorado. But Here's kind of what I think about the Cal game is that offensively throughout 4 games, I have no questions about the offense. I am more than okay with the offense. We'll get to that. Defensively, though, it's been a really tough road to hoe this against North Dakota State, against Colorado. What have you seen so far? Or California, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we started to kind of see it. I thought they looked pretty sharp in the first game against San Diego State. Against North Dakota State, we started to see some issues. North Dakota State at times was running the ball at will, and they were starting to run it directly down Arizona's throat, and they looked like they were getting overpowered at times. But then they were opportunistic and came back and made plays, when they needed to. But for the most part, they were getting kind of dominated up front against North Dakota State. So that was kind of a little bit of an eye opener. But you were thinking, is it an anomaly because of what they do, or is it, but of course once you put something on film, that's who you are. It doesn't matter what you say. And so sure enough, I knew we were going to see a lot of the same things when, they faced Cal, and that's, Cal came right at them doing a lot of pulling, pressing and pulling, and doing the same type of things, and had a lot of success. And so basically Arizona's just got to show that they can be more disciplined, and that they got some guys that can take on the run, can take on blocks, get off blocks. They're going to have to go back to the basics again. I think it will probably do them some good to rotate more guys in there, get some more size in there. It's interesting because you run with the same guys for most of the game, and I understand it because you get used to. I mean, it's a comfort level of having the starters in there, but when you're in there for this many plays, and when teams are going to tempo on you, guys can get worn out. So I think that you might want to go a little deeper into the bench. I'd like to see some more big bodies out there. I mean, what's happening to guys like
That was going to be my next question, because I'd love to see, and I get playing the guys that you're comfortable with, but I'd love to see a little bit of a Sterling. I'd love to see a little bit of a Sterling Lane in there. I'd love to see just a couple other guys. Let's talk about the linebacking core, because we talked about, Jerry Roberts has been, a little bit of a rough game, but overall he's been Arizona's best linebacker. Would you like to see them maybe move to more of a linebacker heavy set, or how would you like to see Arizona try to counteract what teams are going to try to keep doing?
It depends. I mean, like North Dakota State was bringing in, multiple packages, and they were shuffling in different packages, different linebackers. Different sets with multiple tight ends. Right. So if you're facing teams that bring in different packages, you may want to have some packages ready, maybe heavier packages, to counteract what those teams are doing. It was hard with North Dakota State because they had so many packages. They had like 20 different packages.
For sure.
Nevertheless, if they're bringing in a bunch of tight ends and you got a bunch of DBs in there, that's what North Dakota State's strategy was. They were going to try to make us play, fight inside of a box and see if they could stand up to all those tight ends and fullbacks and, ginormous running backs that are coming downhill on Arizona, and they struggle with it. So for whatever reason, Arizona struggled with it. But it's usually, when you look at the film, it's usually, you can usually see what the reasons are. And coaches alluded to it. It's being undisciplined, guys just trying to not doing their assignments, doing other people's assignments, overrunning things, opening up the gate. So for me, what I like to see in those situations is I'm the type of, what I used to remember playing is, it'd be like nobody has a position this week. Everybody's gonna fight for their position.
Yep. People just keep in mind, Lamont played on maybe the best team with maybe the best college defense ever. So keep that in mind. Keep going.
And it was always a competitive situation.
Right.
And if you guys were doing a poor job blocking, if you're doing a poor job what we ended up doing is getting back in just going back to the basics, and it'd be a bloody practice out there. We'd be running full line. We'd be doing stuff like that. I know there's limitations to what you can do now, but there's no substitute for tackling. There's no substitute for going full line and just getting in there and working on the fundamentals. Now you can still do things without taking guys to the ground, but I think that you just got to go back to the basics, and you just got to rep things over and over again. And until you see guys, and you got to have guys doing things that are uncomfortable, coming up, taking on blocks, guys, and you just got to rep things over and over again. And I've seen them practice, and Coach Nansen, he's a very fundamental coach. Right. And I know the level of coach that he is, and I know that they're going to be grinding this week in practice until they see some progress.
Right. I wanted to talk to Lamont a little bit kind of about the future of the defense, then get to the offense here in just a second, but got to tell you about two things. Four Peaks Brewery, the official brew of PHNX Sports. Check it out. Watch parties going down there Saturday. And I want to tell you about Tap and Bottle. We have a watch parties for every away game. Really good showing last week. Love to keep that going. Come check us down at Tap and Bottle downtown. Every away basketball and football game. All right, Lamont. So here's what I look at Arizona, and it's kind of a weird conglomeration here. And there's clearly more talent on this defense than there was last year at this point. And what I mean by that is you've got a lot of young guys that you can tell are going to be good, and they're going to be good in time. I think the average person just looks at it and says, oh, well, it's the same old Arizona defense. But if you look at it, just look at the DBs alone. You've got a guy in an Ephesians Prysock. You've got a guy in a Takario Davis. These are guys that just look different. They're young, though. You look at the linebacking core. Jacob Manu, you can tell he's going to be a player. He's a little short or a little small right now. You've got a Deuce Lane in there as well. Deuce Davis also on the edge. There is help coming, and it's within the program. But I think for the average Arizona fan that maybe you don't necessarily see that, and they're just like, well, it just looks like the same defense. It looks like the same exact personnel from last year. To me, it's a little bit different. Yes, they're going to take their lumps, but there's more talent right now on this roster than there was last year.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some talent on the roster. There's no question about that. I think what you want to see in the linebacking car, I think you want to see those guys get bigger and a little more physical down there. Because I think if I'm looking at Arizona's linebackers and I'm a different team, I'm thinking they're kind of smallish.
Yes.
When you're looking at it, and that's the youth of the group. I mean, Jerry Roberts is he's a senior and he's 230, but everyone else from there, it's a lot of 215, 200.
Right.
So. Whatever happens this year, the teams are going to challenge that. They're going to challenge that. So that's what I think the challenge for Arizona too is to try. You want to get your best guys out there on the field, but I think size and strength also matters down there. So I like to see rotate some more guys in there, even on the D line. I'm like, what happened to guys like Jason Harris and some of these really, they got some big guys down there that, if anything, if you got a guy that's big and athletic and put him down in the box and let's see what he can do. I just want to maybe rotate some more guys in there to get some fresh bodies in there to keep guys fresh. So guys are running to the ball. I think the most important thing is, obviously being disciplined in your assignments, but everybody running to the ball. And if you can keep guys fresh and keep, fresh legs in there, maybe you can have some more success in that area.
One thing that does kind of annoy me, and every fan base does this, and I fall into this as well, is when people say, well, you got Colorado and then the next winnable game is ASU. I don't subscribe to that theory. And I thought you made a really good point when you said, listen, Arizona was in it against Utah. Arizona was in against UCLA last year. Arizona generally beats teams that you don't expect them to beat. And that goes back to the Tomey. You could even go back to Larry Smith with that. So, and you look at it, I think Utah is going to be I don't want to say impossible game, but Utah is going to be a very, very difficult game for Arizona. But I don't see why Arizona can't hang and beat Wazoo. I don't see why they can't hang and beat UCLA. Obviously, we've talked about ASU as well. So I don't really buy this. Well, after Colorado, we'll see you at ASU in November. I don't subscribe to that theory at all.
Well, I'm sure the team doesn't either. Right. That's why we play the games, right?
Right.
I mean, if you think you're going to lose, then you're right. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think anybody on their squad is going into a game going, well, we're not going to win this one, so let's get ready for next week. I think, if you look at the makeup of this team, last year, what did they average? Like 17 points a game?
Right.
They're averaging 29, 30. Mm-hmm. That would actually won a couple more games last year if you look at it like that. So I really think that they just need to, you start to find out what type of team you are after the first few games. You start to find out where your holes are and what holes you got to plug. And I think those are obvious right now, and I think they're searching for some solutions right now in practice, and I know they're going to continue to work on those things until they improve. And if they can make some improvements on the defensive side of the ball, with the way that they're scoring, they're going to be in every game. It doesn't matter who they're playing. So it's going to come down to who makes the most plays and who makes the most mistakes and who plays the best. There's no this is a win, this is a loss. That's not how the game works. That's why they play the game. So I'm with you on that one.
You said from day one, and you told me this last year. You said, "I'm telling you, this coaching staff can evaluate talent." And we talk about a bunch of the recruits they bring in, but Lamont, it's never more glaring how good this staff is at identifying talent is on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I get it. When you bring in transfer portal guys, you're hoping for an instant contribution, but just look at this. Jayden DeLaura, no matter what, sure, he's had a couple bad throws. Jayden DeLaura has been a B+ and A quarterback for Arizona this season. Jacob Cowing has been everything and more people thought. Tanner McLaughlin, same way. I mean, these are not guys, especially McLaughlin, that people were looking at and saying, "Oh, well, that's a surefire contributor." So they overhauled the offense in no time flat right now to where it's not only a good unit, it's an above average unit, Lamont.
Oh yeah, the name of the game is talent evaluation, and that's why he has that big staff in there that's breaking down film and looking at guys and taking tips from. They're all about making this team better. I mean, even us guys as alumni, what they've told us, if you see somebody and somebody, put that person in front of us and we're going to go out there and take a look at them.
Let me ask you this. Sorry to interrupt you, but how refreshing is that, just as an alum like yourself, to have a coaching staff that is fully engaged and they want to hear from you if you've got someone?
It's such a no-brainer. You got guys that are coaches, high school coaches. You got guys that have played in the NFL. You got guys that know what it looks like. If we've played the game, what a talented person looks like. And so we're like, hey, I know somebody. I have a connection over here. You guys need to come take a look at this guy. You need to value him. And I send stuff to Brandon Sanders all the time. He gets it right in front of the staff. And matter of fact, it's popped on some of the guys that I've actually sent to him. So I mean, these guys are really evaluating, and they don't need someone else's evaluation. They make their own evaluations of what they like, and they, like I say, you got a lot of experience here, and so yeah, I absolutely 100% trust the evaluation of the staff.
And it's been a while, but I'll tell you one thing. They've got a nice little stable of running backs, too. That little triumvirate right there where you've got Michael Wiley, who I think people have always kind of slept on a little bit just because it seems like he's been here so long. But he's got good vision. He's elusive. Then you got Jonah Coleman. You got DJ Williams. Those are three pretty good backs that they can bring in and out that can all do a little bit of different stuff, Lamont.
No question about it. They hit some home runs on those guys, bringing them in. I even like the guys that are not playing. I mean, Drake Anderson and Stevie Rocker, those guys can play. Those guys contributed last year, So, yeah, no, there's talent. There's definitely talent. And I do have to give a shout out to Coach Carroll, man, because, the offensive line struggled at times last year. And they have been – I mean, there were times in the Cal game where DeLaura was sitting back there, counting 1,000, 2, 1,000.
Right.
I mean, they were blitzing and they were picking it up. I mean, big improvement in that area. I mean, and it's noticeable. The improvement is noticeable. They're doing a great job of switching on blocks and, coming downhill on people. So they have, dramatically. I saw in the first game that they had dramatically changed, but that's a big improvement, a big jump from last year. So big shout out to Brendan Carroll for that offensive line and his improvement.
Let's talk about a couple of those guys here, but just want to tell you two quick things here about Game Time. This is America's newest ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score deals on tickets, sports, concerts. Save up to 60% when you buy tickets last minute. I am not a procrastinator, but there's many out there that are, and this is the spot to go. If you love PHNX, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. All right, Jonah Savanea. It really caught my attention when Jedd Fisch said, I've been coaching a long time, and I don't know that I've ever seen a freshman come in that looks like Jonah does at 330 pounds. And he's lost a little bit of weight since then. But Lamont, this guy is absolutely rare air. Again, I mean, he looks like the kind of guy that Alabama gets as a freshman. This is a guy that, barring injury, has the world in front of him, and you're going to be hearing his name for a lot. He's special.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you what, it's rare when a freshman can come in, a true freshman can come in and play at this level. That's the reason why you typically redshirt your linemen and defensive linemen, because usually, even if they weigh, 320 pounds, it's usually all baby fat when they get here. But he was pretty put together. He was pretty powerful from the time he got here. From right away from spring, he announced himself like, "Yeah, I'm coming to get the job," and he's earned it, and he's held his own in there. I haven't seen him getting overwhelmed out there. He's held his own. So yeah, he's got a bright future in front of him. If he can stay healthy and continue to train like I know he's going to train here, he's got a bright future in front of him.
What have you seen from Jordan Morgan, just from when he first stepped foot in the program to now, where he's grading out really high? If you look at Pro Football Focus, he's one of the higher graded tackles in the conference. You've already had Jed Fish talking about how has he improved, and what have you seen?
He's improved everywhere. Last year, there were a couple of times where I felt like he was getting overextending, and I know he had some injury problems going into the season, but I haven't seen anybody overwhelm him this year. He's always been strong as an ox. I mean, he's always been really, really strong, but now you're starting to see it translate on the field. He's getting his hands on people, and they're not going anywhere, and he's been dominant this year. Beautiful pass protection. I mean, his side has been locked down. I don't think he's given up a sack this year. And knock on wood, but he's having a great season and really, really shown like a huge jump from last year to this year. And I'm just really proud, of the progress that he's made at this position, because he's putting himself in position to do some big things.
Now, let's moving on then, just looking at the rest of the conference then. I thought going into the year that it would be a big win for Arizona if you could get five wins. And because, again, people need to remember, yes, Arizona's better, but you're almost the victim of being better at that point, because now people want so many more wins. I get it. Everybody wants to win games. They didn't look very good against Cal in a lot of different aspects, but I still look at it, and like we talked about, they should be able to beat Colorado. I get that nobody ever wants to circle in a victory, and I'm not going to do it, but whatever. But you got Colorado. The path to 4 or 5 wins is still absolutely there, Lamont. And on top of that, if you can go into the offseason, if you're Jed Fish and you can sell that entire thing off, listen, I came here and there was a 20-game losing streak. We got to first win. Now we got 4 or 5. This next year, you start pushing into that 7 or 8. The progress is still on path here. I know people get a little dejected by sometimes what happened, especially against Cal, but the progress is still there when you look at a big picture.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to not be blind and not see the progress. They've made a lot of progress this year. Obviously, on the offensive end, they are much, much different. They've scored on every single team that they played against this year, and I think that's going to continue. I think they're only going to get better offensively. And like I say, if they can all they got to do is tighten things up on the defensive side. You got to be, you got to be shutting teams out, but what you got to do is the basics. You got to be in position. You got to give yourselves an opportunity to win by being where you're supposed to be and running to the ball, some basic things. And they just got to, and those are all, like I say, like Coach Nansen said, they're all correctable things. So they get some of those things in order. I still think that there's some victories to be had out there, and I fully expect that to happen. I fully expect there to be some upsets this year. It's just all about focus, man. You got to play better. That's all.
All right. One last thing before we sign off, and I want to get Lamont's prediction here. Morefurniture.com, MOR Furniture, supplied the entire PHNX studio with everything there. Great deals going on. Check out morefurniture.com, MORfurniture.com. All right, Lamont, what are you looking for Saturday against Colorado? Obviously, Colorado's not a good team, but that doesn't mean that you're not expecting certain things and you want to see from Arizona. What are you looking for from behind the booth?
Well, Colorado's improving, that just, no matter what anybody says, they finally have got their quarterback, and they actually look better last week. They scored, I think, 14 points against UCLA, but actually moved the ball at times last week, and they looked a little bit better running the ball. So I expect them to take a few more steps forward this weekend. Again, they're looking at us like we look like food to them right now.
Right.
Because of, what happened on defense last year. So we've got to elevate our game. I think we've got to come out and play well, all aspects, special teams, defense, offense. If we can do that, if the offense is hitting on all cylinders, I still expect us to, I do expect a victory, but it's not going to be given to us. They got to play well. So I really am looking forward to a focused performance from them, and I'm looking for some improvements on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm looking for all those things. And if they can do all those things, then yes, they absolutely should come out with a victory at home.
All right, Lamont, I can't thank you enough for hopping on, my man. We're going to sign off, but again, we'll be in touch. You know, I'll be bothering you. So again, always appreciate your time, buddy.
Oh, always a pleasure, man.
All right.
Bear down, back the 8.
Bear down, back the 8. I got it right there. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.